Welcome to the Bear Talk, your go-to Chicago Bears podcast, where a father and son break down all things Bears, from Soldier Field to Sunday showdowns. I'm your host, Dylan Weaver, and as always, I'm joined here with my dad. And you know what? You know what? And now here comes all the Bears fans back in. We're going to the Super Bowl. Caleb's our quarterback. Here we go. No, but on a serious note, what a game. I was personally at this game, just got back actually, and we're hopping on to record this post-game show. And wow, man, what a roller coaster of emotions. It was a tight game pretty much the whole way through. The Bears finally pull through later in the fourth quarter, take a 14-point lead. There's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. You think that's it. They call back Tremaine Edmonds' pick six. You still think, okay, the game's pretty much out of reach. Yeah, they might score a touchdown, but they're definitely not going to recover an onside kick. And what happens? Here they go, march down the field, take the lead. It's all of a sudden 42-41 Cincinnati with about 50 seconds left on that clock. And Caleb Williams said, too much time on the clock for me. I know you had a thought on this post-game show last week. You said, I don't trust Caleb in the fourth quarter with the ball in his hands. That would be his fourth game-winning drive of the year out of our 5 wins. But, what's your immediate thoughts? Being there in the game, it was ecstatic. It was a great experience to be there in the moment.
I have 8 things. Since there was 8 lead changes throughout that game, 2 of them in the last 2 minutes and 36 seconds, and also eight different emotions that I experienced throughout that whole game. It was a great game because we won. There's some things we'll talk about that wasn't great, and that's why it is what it is. What it is, but um, outstanding game. I mean, and what did I say? What did I say before? Winning cures all.
It does cure all.
Cures everything.
And you know what it doesn't do though? It doesn't cure bad opinions and bad takes on a quarterback. It doesn't quite cure all that. But seriously though, it was a great game. Definitely I do feel like, a cool thing to see in this game is, and Caleb and Colston Loveland both touched on it at their post-game interview on the field. They both said it pretty clearly. The defense has kind of helped them stay in games and finish games early on in the season. And yeah, the offense has had a game-winning drive to win it ultimately at the end, but this was the game where the offense fully won this game. There's no ifs, ands, whats, or buts. The offense is the reason the Bears won this football game today. So it's definitely cool. We've got to see a little bit of everything. We've got to see the defense. We got to rely on a run game. We relied on both a passing and run game today. Special teams is probably the one area where it continues to be a problem. It's honestly quite alarming, but it was cool to see the offense, especially in games like this. If you do want to play in the playoffs, you are going to be in games like this where they're going to be shootouts, and you are going to, at the end of the day, if you get the ball last, you got to capitalize, and Caleb Williams did that today.
Yeah, he absolutely did. I'm going to tell you in the beginning because I'm sure you're going to bring up the text I sent you.
Yep.
Which by the way, you did get one of the best games ever to go to. I am jealous that you got to experience that live. I got to watch it on my little iPhone screen while I was, 30,000 feet in the air flying back from Florida. But I want to talk about the beginning, right? Like we drive down the field and we can't capitalize and get a touchdown. We have to rely on a field goal.
No. The opening drive, we scored a touchdown.
Oh, maybe it's the second one, but
Yeah,
one of them
second
we
one,
couldn't,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, come on,
I was going to say the first one we capitalized. That was the Philly special to Caleb Williams.
Oh, where he received the touchdown.
Philly special.
Do you want to know what my thoughts were on that Philly special?
Great play call. 4th and goal, too.
It was an awesome play call, but it's been 2 whole games since Caleb's thrown a touchdown. And my thought was immediately in my head, even Ben Johnson doesn't trust him to throw a touchdown. He's throwing DJ Moore to throw touchdowns. That was what was going through my head. So that was the biggest emotion there that I had. And then Then we had the shanked field goal that somehow went a hard right. I don't know how that
Yeah, I'm
happened.
not gonna lie. That I do think Cairo could get the boot tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie. Uh,
I
I really
I'd be
think it's a
100% for it.
possibility. I 100% do. I mean, we'll definitely take some cap hit because we did just sign him to an extension the start of this year till 2027. But I mean,
How many
he's
now has he
missed.
missed?
I think he's had 2 blocked now for sure. One today, one earlier in the season. Trying to think. He's had 2 for sure misses. I think he might have 3 though. He's had 2 for sure misses, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's unacceptable because even when you look at that, if you add up, okay, the blocked one, whether he kicked it too low or it just got blocked, but you take that one away. If he makes that other one, this game is without a reach, even if the Bengals recover that onside. They'd have to recover an onside kick again. So it's like there was plenty of opportunities to put this game away on the defensive side and special teams. Luckily, the offense did show up today, both in the run game and the passing game. And that's, let's start off there. We'll save the bad stuff because there definitely is still bad parts of this game.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think it's very important to highlight this offense. But as always on our post-game shows, like we always do, we're going to go through the stat sheet here, kind of sum everything up for you. Caleb Williams, starting off with him, 20 for 34, 59% completion percentage. Definitely something he still needs to work on, as I mentioned in the pregame show. 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 sacks with a passer rating of 114.8. Tyson Bagent, 1 for 1 today, a little pass to Caleb Williams. He had a 1 for 1 for 20 yards. DJ Moore obviously had that 2-yard passing touchdown to Caleb Williams. And then in the rushing side, this is the other side of this game. Kyle Monangai, I mean, he's putting pressure. He's putting pressure on DeAndre Swift with a performance like this.
But here's my other thing too. Like this is the emotions of the game today, right? Like I was frustrated. I ain't gonna lie. Like as I'm watching the game, I'm aggravated. But Kyle Monangai is doing a great job, right? I picked him as my offensive MVP this week.
You picked
Yeah.
Caleb.
No.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Go back and watch the tape.
I will. You picked Caleb.
Nope. That was last week. I picked Monangai. Go back and watch the tape. You must not have remembered correctly.
All right.
My point is how is a 7th rounder rushing for 175 yards, right? And then the number 1 overall pick in the beginning, right? I didn't think he was doing his part. I thought there was a lot of trickery going on to kind of hide his inefficiencies and inabilities. Although the play calling was pretty interesting, I will have to say that I saw a lot of plays that I did not expect in this game. But that was my frustration. It's like, man, how can a 7th rounder out of Rutgers do this, but the Heisman Trophy winner out of USC isn't doing what he needs to do? So that's just part of my frustrations.
I get it. And I mean, I hear you. It definitely didn't start off great, but I wouldn't say it started off bad either. Definitely the second half is where Caleb came to life. I think at halftime he was at 150 passing yards. Honestly, it was 130 to 150 in that range.
Well, and the big chunk came on that Loveland touchdown at the very end. I mean that was.
Well, no, I'm saying he. Oh yeah, I hear what you're saying. He had that 58-yard touchdown.
Yeah. Huge chunk.
But nonetheless, I didn't think it was bad. It was a little weird. I will say, being at the game in person where you can kind of see a little bit of everything, there was definitely some checkdowns he definitely did miss at times where he was scrambling and he probably could have got it to his check down. I will say, I think one of them was the second drive of the game. It was still second down, not third down yet, but you could have got the first down. Colston Loveland was wide open in the flat. The defender was pretty far off of him, about 7 yards. He could have easily completed it. Colston would have got the first down. You live to see another play.
The announcers even called that one out and circled a big bubble showing how wide.
I was about to say, though, the other thing when you look at it, I mean, yeah, he just, and this is what the encouraging thing is, and what I've been trying to tell you. There's bad things, but look at what we're doing when we can still have a bunch of stuff to fix. That is the encouraging part of all this. And that's where you have to look towards the positivity of this. Like things if we're able to do this, and it's not take this game out of it, we've still been averaging before this game like 26 points per game on offense without like I say, take away the 47 points a day. Their average is probably up in the 30s, but you take away this game and we're still putting up 26 points. That's my whole thing. And it's really not that far away. Granted, today was a way worse defense. It's probably the worst defense the Bears will face all year. I will say, however, those first couple drives, those cornerbacks were like white on rice on our receivers. Like Caleb threw a couple balls to DJ on those opening drives, and Caleb was throwing them with anticipation, like expecting that DJ was going to get that separation, and they were right on top of them. And it's not like the throw was behind. It was right on them, and they were
He
just
did
right
have that
there.
one behind a Rome, though.
Which one? The one where Rome dropped it?
No,
that was
he didn't,
Cole Kmet
he didn't
who
drop
threw the
it. It was
ball.
behind him. No, it was Rome. It was behind him.
Oh, you're talking about the touchdown pass where he should have caught it?
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
little bit, it was right on his hip. I mean, I hear you. It definitely should.
Behind him.
It could be a better placement, but you want to talk about being a number 1 pick. You want to talk about being a number 10 pick. The ball hits you on both your hands and you drop the ball.
Wow.
I'm just saying it could be a better pass, but at the same time, do you expect him to catch it? Or what about the Rome? What about the Cole Kmet one where Rome hit him right in the chest and Rome dropped it?
They're professionals. I expect them to catch them all and throw them all. That's just what they get paid a lot of money to do that job.
I get it 100%. Anyways, Caleb next play through that was Colston Loveland's first touchdown. 3rd and 6, throws a stagger route right down the slant, right in his chest. The Bears didn't only score on one of their drives. So they had a punt once, and that was at the end of the game when they were trying to close it out when they got Tremaine Edmonds picked. That was the only time they had a punt all game. So shout out to the offense. I mean, when you're punting one time through the game, that is a win. I don't care what anybody says. They, like we said today, they had, what was that? They had 6 touchdowns today. That's pretty good. That's really good, to be honest.
Better than 6 field goals.
And I agree. And that's what we're talking about. It's getting that balance back. But let's hop back up in these stats as I was finishing with Kyle Monangai, 26 for 176 yards. Really wish he would have got in the end zone. But wow, Kyle Monangai was on full display, averaging about 6.8 yards per carry in this game, which is absolute insanity. Both our rookies today, Colston Loveland and Kyle Monangai, played good. Caleb Williams, 5 rushes today, too, for 53 yards. You like to see that. He was doing a lot of his USC stuff today at times, which that was the part that kind of threw me off, too, in this game. Like, I do feel like there was a couple times Caleb was holding the ball a little bit too long back there dancing, but there was also times where this D-line, who has been terrible, was in his face in about 2 seconds on a bunch of plays. Britton Brown, I texted one of my buddies before the game. He was a plus 1,400 to take an anytime touchdown score, 5 carries, 37 yards, and he did get a touchdown. Had a very nice run on an outside zone read. DJ Moore, 1 carry for 17 yards with 1 tutty as well. And in the receiving, it was kind of a little bit of everything except, the number 1 guy on this receiving team. It was Colston Loveland, who finally, this was he arrived moment, 6 catches, 118 yards, 2 tutties on the day. And obviously he had that game-winning touchdown, which watching it in person was cool, but I'm not going to lie. I saw the highlights of it on Twitter afterwards, and it's even crazier on TV than in person. It really didn't look that crazy. It did, but it didn't. But watching it on the broadcast afterwards was insane. DJ Moore, 4 catches, 72 yards. Like to see that. Lamade Zaccheaus, 6 catches, 58 yards, and that tutty on that opening drive. Actually, you're right. I think Lamade Zaccheaus had that opening drive touchdown. The Philly special was, I think, our second one, now that I'm thinking about it. Caleb Williams, 2 catches today for 22 yards and a touchdown. He rushed the ball, caught the ball, threw the ball. He did a little bit of everything today. Monangai contributed in the receiving game as well. 3 catches, 22 yards. Cole Kmet, 1 catch for 10 yards, and then he obviously was out with a concussion after that. Took a pretty big hit. Britton Brown and Rome Odunze both were targeted, but did not catch any of their balls today, which is why I was saying it was shocking. Rome Odunze, he's been our studded receiver through the whole season so far. He's always at the top of that column, and today just didn't seem like his day. And I know he came into the game with that heel injury that he was dealing with earlier in the week when he didn't practice. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but definitely was a little odd. We've seen him drop balls, but there was quite a few today where, and I'll give you that grace on that one that was behind him. Probably could have been a better throw 100%, but the other two were two balls right at him and he dropped them. And we've seen that, but Rome's I'm not too worried about it, but definitely would like to see it get cleaned up. And overall too, let's just read this because this is where it gets really crazy. Total yards for the Bears offense, 576 total offensive yards. That is insanity. And this is why you bring in Ben Johnson, because when is the last time we have seen a Bears offense put up this amount of yards? And like I said, it was Caleb, it was Cal Monangai. It was all parts of the offense fully clicking. And the most important part, another part you like to see from both the running backs and the quarterback, 0 turnovers to the Bengals 3 turnovers. Bears had 30 first downs. The seven penalties today for 43, which is a step in the right direction. We cut it in half in what we're used to seeing, which is definitely a good sign. Third down conversions, 8 for 15. That's right over 50%. That's right around like 53, 54% on third downs. That's pretty good. Fourth down conversions for the Bears, 2 for 2. Red zone, the stat you were talking about that we both said need to stop getting field goals, 4 for 6 today. Good job by the Bears offense. Time of possession, Bears dominated 34 minutes and 30 seconds to the Bengals 25 minutes and 30 seconds. Just an absolute all-around masterclass game from the offense. We've kind of both given our thoughts, but if you have any, some of these stats, any thoughts that you wanted to just reflect on.
So I'll reflect on Caleb Williams because I know in the pregame show I was busting your chops pretty hard, and I even brought up the Bo Nix game where he threw for 2 and ran for 1, and I kind of asked you what can Caleb do, and Caleb doesn't run for 1, he receives 1 in the end zone, right, for a touchdown, and then obviously he had his 3 other touchdown passes he threw. So the whole time I was watching the game at the end, and I'm thinking that bad man. He did it. He outdid Bo Nix. Great game though. I mean, it was that. I don't want to say great game. We won, right? That's good. Doesn't matter if you win by a point or 50 points.
It was definitely a great game by him.
Wow.
There's definitely things to prove. If you had to grade it on a scale from an F to an A+, it's definitely not an A+, but it's definitely an A- or an A at best. I mean,
I would grade it
up
this
there.
way. I would grade it as super exciting game, right? It was exciting to watch. There was a lot happening. There's a lot of cool plays. If they keep getting better, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit to what they can do. But they got to execute the basics, right? It's the basics. I like the trick plays. I think the trick plays are fun. But if you can't do the basics, that's where I get a little frustrated, right? Because it seems like you need to execute the basics before you can get onto the fun stuff. But a win's a win. We'll take it. Caleb had a great game. I will say it. It was fun to watch.
I'll say too, another thing, we had one at the very end of the game, not on our final drive to win the game, but that drive when we were trying to run the clock out and not let the Bengals get the ball back. One false start penalty today. So shout out to the O-line, the receivers. Shout out to Caleb because part of it is his fault as well with the cadence. Obviously, in away stadiums, you do go to silent count, but when he is under center, sometimes you still do go your normal cadence because he's right up there on the line and everyone can hear him. But they almost had a perfect game with no pre-snap penalties. They had one false start right late at the game. They had one illegal shift, I think, one time to where the receiver didn't quite get set. But other than that, I think that is something we need to point out too, because the two things we said going into this game and last week in our post game was clean up the penalties and clean up the red zone. And they did both of those today. Shout out to Ben Johnson too. That's all credit to him. I think he took a shot at the players last week after that loss to the Ravens where he said, listen, we've been harping the penalties and, being disciplined football players. It's up to the players now to hold themselves accountable. And I think he shot a nice little bow and arrow right at those players, and the players responded. And, I think Ben Johnson said it perfectly too. You can look at this game. Yeah, it's the Bengals. It's a shootout game, but at the end of the day, you don't not celebrate a win. It's hard to win in the NFL. So especially on the road as well. Although being in that stadium personally, it was a Bears stadium for sure. I mean, it was packed with Bears fans, and it was funny too because when we scored that last touchdown and Tremaine Edmonds got that pick, every Bengals fan in that stadium left except a very few majority of them. And all of a sudden it's a ball game. And it's like, it was crazy. It was definitely crazy, but
Here's what I got to ask. You drove all the way there to go see the game, right? You had some great seats. Opening kickoff, they run it back for a touchdown. What are you thinking at that point?
I'm like,
why did I drive this far?
No, I just said, oh, here we go. We're in a hole already. And then luckily the Bears did drive down the field and cancel it out right away. But, it definitely was painful on the opening kickoff. I'm just sitting there. And I mean, he didn't break it. It's not like he broke a tackle. He just ran in a straight line. It was like, are we serious? I did one of these because for reference for our viewers out there, we were row 5 at about in between the 30 and 40 yard line on the Bears side. So we're about the 35. And you see him hit the gap and he's running, and you see Cairo trying to catch him. You're like, oh yeah, he's not touching him. So I do the whole, let's look back at the 20-yard line, hope there's a yellow thing on the ground. And no, there wasn't. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Letting this crowd it was funny. I had one Bengals fan sitting next to me on my left side, and the whole time he's just like, this team sucks, man. I hate the Bengals. I hate them. And it makes me sit there and just think of what we've been going through the past, with the Eberflus and granted, Nagy did have his good year, his first year here, but after that it was downhill. It just made me think of all that. And I felt his pain. I was like, I hear you, man. But it was funny. They scored the opening kickoff, and he looks at me. He goes, "It don't matter. Trust me, it doesn't matter." And I'm just like, oh God. But seeing that opening kickoff, it was just like, okay, here we go. We're in it. It got you right into the action. Got your heart racing right from the jump, and that's all you could ask for being at a game. But it was good to see the offense respond and march down the field and match them to pretty much cancel the game out. But I think that's a perfect time to segue. You were just talking about a special teams play of, that kick return that the Bengals had on the opening kick of the game. And this is a perfect segue. The special teams, Richard Hightower, he's been with the Bears for a while. He was the only coach under Eberflus's, team that got brought over to Ben Johnson going into this year. And he's got to clean it up because it's especially the kickoff coverage. It's not been this game. It's been every game. Yeah, no one's broke it for a touchdown yet, but every time they're getting the ball out to the 40-yard line. Like at this point, just tell Cairo to kick it in the end zone and they get the ball at the 30. No, he can kick it in the end zone. Yes, he can. Not out of it, but he can kick it into the end zone and let them knee it, and they'll get the ball at the 35 because half the time right now, they're getting it past the 35-yard line. It's insanity. I don't know what's happening, but let me scroll down on the kick returns. Here we go. 4 returns for Charlie Jones for 179 yards. Obviously, you got to take out that 90-yarder, and that puts him right at about 80. It puts about 80 yards with 3 other ones. So you do the quick math. He's averaging about 28 yards a return. That is way too much.
Yep.
Every time they were getting great field position with these elite receivers we talked about in the pregame with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I don't know what it is with the kick returns, but it is terrible. And then on top of it too, when you look at it, the other side of it is now the field goal thing. We've seen 2 field goals get blocked. We're not even halfway through the season yet. And on top of that, we're missing field goals. Something's got to definitely improve in the special teams. And, Richard Hightower's been here for a while, and I know he takes a lot of pride in, getting these players ready to go in his specific unit, but something's definitely got to change, especially on the kickoff coverage, because we're just putting ourselves at a disadvantage every single time.
And you're leaving out the whole onside kick that they attempted at the end of the game and were successful on that we botched.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems in that special teams game.
Yeah, it was the craziest part too is I will say Daniel Hardy, those front line guys, they're bigger and they are supposed to go literally. You're supposed to go
Yep.
hit those guys in front of you. Ultimately, I don't even
It was
know.
bad ball.
I was about to say Evan McPherson, if that doesn't hit him, that ball doesn't even go 10 yards.
Right. Only a 9-yard
hit
ball.
him,
Yep.
it was lucky, and it is what it is. But at the same time, that is still a mistake on special teams. It is. So it's got to get cleaned up going forward, because special teams, like when you're letting quick plays like that happen or giving a team good field position, it hurts you. And then let's take a look at our kick return. Once again, right before halftime, Devin Duvernay runs one back himself to the 30-yard line. Guess what? Holding, bring it back. Like we saw so many of those last week in the Ravens game where Duvernay had a couple of good returns and they always got back because of holdings. The special teams has got to get cleaned up. I think, honestly, I'll give the defense some slouch because for the most part, they have been playing good this season, especially with all the injuries they've been dealing with. But the special teams has been, I feel like, the one phase of the game where it has continuously been bad, and it needs to improve fast.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That first opening kickoff return when that happened. I was like, oh no, here we go. This is going to be a bad game. And then obviously it thought it was all in the bag at the very end, and then all of a sudden Flacco took his Geritol and turned into a 25-year-old version of himself and had the all-time highest passing game of his career. But then that play happened at the end with the onside kick, and then you talk about just field position, right, for the defense with what they have to start with. So special teams is an opportunity. Ben Johnson, obviously every week he's focused on something that's been an opportunity, so I'm sure he'll focus on that this week. We'll get that cleaned up. But defense, I think we should roll into defense and talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I just finished off saying, the defense for the most part, even with the injuries, has been keeping the Bears in a lot of these games, especially early on. But kind of 2 weeks in a row, even with bringing in CJ Gardner-Johnson, which, by the way, I think he actually played a great game. He was
my other MVP of the game.
I was about to say, for the most part, he did actually play a pretty well game. I will say, but to everyone, even Tyreek today was getting beat on a lot of deep balls. Obviously, like what we talked about, it is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but Nahshon Wright was the one guy who was continuously getting beat left and right. Like T. Higgins was having a field day on him. That touchdown he scored right before halftime was right in our face. Like literally, he caught that ball right in front of us, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, the craziest thing, fun fact for our viewers out there, T. Higgins actually went to school 5 minutes from me down here in Tennessee, in the Oak Ridge area, and the guy absolutely mossed Nahshon Wright, like completely mossed him, and it was just a rough day for Nahshon Wright in general. He was continuously getting burnt all over the field, and it's definitely got to get improved. And like we talked about, don't be surprised if we wake up in the morning and you see the Bears go heavy, maybe again at a cornerback position or another edge rusher. But this defense, especially in the passing game, the running game, they did great. Let's see right here today. Chase Brown, 11 carries for 37 yards. That's pretty good. He's averaging about 3 yards a carry. So the run D, which is mostly the D linemen and the linebackers, playing a great game. But the secondary today, like we said, Joe Flacco is at the end of his career, and he just had his best career game. That should not be happening. Joe Flacco was 31 for 47 today with 470 yards, 4 touchdowns. Obviously, the 2 interceptions, granted, one of them was the Hail Mary at the end of the game. Wouldn't really count that against him because you're just desperately throwing the ball up there. But he also did have that fumble, which was due to Austin Booker, which what a good game back for him to start his season off. But this secondary, man, it's definitely concerning. I definitely want to talk about it before we hop into this D line, because I felt like the D line actually played pretty well today. But the secondary has 100% got to improve.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers, though, I know we kind of talked about Tyreek having a rough game, but he I think he led the team in tackles, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, he had I'm looking around. He had
Solo tackle.
five solo tackles. He
Yep.
was tied with Byard. But on top of that, you know, where team tackles where guys are in, Trey Edmonds was up there once again.
Right.
Back where he belongs. But that's the other thing, Dad. Tyreek Steven, he's a cornerback.
Yeah.
Why is he leading the team in tackles? Because his guys
Shouldn't
are
be.
catching the balls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Yep. But he was up there. Edmonds, obviously, 5 tackles, 4 assists. Austin Booker, like you mentioned, but he did come in. I think he had a sack.
He caused the forced fumble. That was him.
Yeah. Yep. So that was awesome to have him come in and do it. I'd like to see more of that.
You know who else continued their sack streak this week?
Montez
Sweat, 4 games in a row. This is what we're needing from him. He's getting paid big money, and
yep.
This is exactly why he's here. 4 games in a row. It really feels like we talked about it last game. Like he's finally starting to find a little bit of a rhythm again. And 4 games in a row with a sack. That's definitely something to be positive about as a Bears fan. We paid him a lot of money. He's actually the highest paid player on this Bears team. And we need him to start showing up. And the past 4 weeks, he's definitely made his presence felt.
Yeah. And what about Billings? Billings with that one play in there at one part of the crucial part of the game there where he came in there. It was pretty good to see him have that out of his 100th game. Obviously started with the Bengals like we talked about earlier. So it's cool to see Billings do that. And then obviously when Montez was getting mauled on the ground and the flag got thrown and then Billings came in to save Montez from getting pummeled on the ground. I don't know what your vantage point was at.
That was right. That
game.
was also right in front of us at the game. And it's funny because we were watching to see if they were going to score the touchdown on that play, which they ended up didn't. But all of a sudden you saw Montez come flying right at us, like on the ground. And the thing that scared me is I thought the flag was on us initially because Billings did come over and bump into the guy. And that's right when the ref threw the flag. But I think the ref also didn't see Montez Sweat until he went flying, and he was probably trying to grab it. And then finally, by the time he threw it, it just timed up with the same time that Billings hit him. But that was definitely a break the Bears needed because the Bengals ended up settling for 3 points there. And instead, they were on the 2-yard line, got backed up all the way to the 17. So it helped the Bears out. We're not complaining. The good thing about that, too, it was after the play was over. So the down counted, and it ended up being third and goal from like their 17-yard line. And then I know we talked about Montez and Austin Booker, but your guy too, who you said before the game, CJ Gardner-Johnson, he also was credited with a sack on that blitz. And it's exactly what we need. A guy to come in and kind of do what Kyler Gordon does. And I'm telling you right now, even that catch that T. Higgins had on him where he scored that touchdown just barely, I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson was draped over T. Higgins, and Joe Flacco put the ball in the one spot where he couldn't get a hold of it. But for the most part, I think CJ Gardner-Johnson played a great game. You saw him multiple times in this game flying downhill in the backfield, stopping the run, just like we see Kyler Gordon do. And like I said, outside of that one touchdown that T. Higgins had on that little out route, I mean, I'm telling you, we were right there as well, and CJ Gardner-Johnson was all over him. It just was Flacco literally put the ball in the one spot where he couldn't get a hold of it.
Flacco had himself a game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. From the TV watching the passes, I don't think like anyone got smoked. None of the DBs when the balls were going on the field, they were just they either one were great balls or two there was the lucky bounce. There were especially on the Nation Wright one with Higgins for the touchdown. That was absolutely insane
Yeah,
how that ball.
we couldn't believe that he caught it. I'm telling you, that was literally about 10 yards in front of us because we were sitting in the fifth row. And when he caught that, I looked over at the people, all the Bears fans, and we're all just mouth wide open. Like, what in the world just happened? Because the Bears, for the majority part of that first half, were in cruise control. And then that happened right before halftime. And
And then
it
we
was,
come out at the second half and we can't get down the field.
yeah. So it was definitely, like you said, there was definitely Joe Flacco was on full display, just dropping dimes everywhere.
And with a bad AC joint.
Yeah. And that's the other part we can talk about a little bit with Austin Booker. That happened right. It's crazy. All these big plays kind of happened right where we were at, but I had a really good vantage point on that fumble, and I'm sure you guys could see it at home on the replay on the broadcast, but Joe Flacco, I don't think Booker actually made him fumble. Booker, if you noticed, was falling on him, and if he would have held the ball and tucked it, his shoulder would have got destroyed. So I think he purposely let go of the ball, even though it's just a dumb. They were in their territory, and it's like you don't just let go of the ball, but he did and used his arms to brace his fall, so it wasn't all on his shoulder because he probably would have been out of the game. But at the same time, you ended up giving the Bears the ball in your territory because you just wanted to drop the ball, because that's literally what it was. He literally just dropped the ball because to protect his fall. But still gets credit as a forced fumble for Austin Booker and the sack. So, like I said, definitely was good. And Austin Booker was getting a lot of pressures too. He had almost a couple of sacks in there. And that's what we're talking about with his speed in the pregame show. He's a guy that can fly around corners and brings versatility to this defensive line where he's not just going to try and bull rush you, even though I don't know if you saw his sack replay on Orlando Brown, who, by the way, is an established tackle in the NFL. He puts his arm right up on his chest right here and throws him to the ground. And just that's how he got the sack. He threw him. And when you look at it, like we talked about, Austin Booker is a smaller DN. He literally threw him like he was a little rag doll, and he completely fell over and just right at the quarterback. So Austin Booker looked great from my point. He did mostly come in on third downs for pass rushing, but he had I think a good welcome back game for this season.
Yeah, I think if you look a little bit further down the stat list there too on the defense, Dio, 1 tackle.
Yep. He did have a QB hit though. We'll give it to him.
Yeah.
But
Paying him a lot of money for 1 tackle.
Oh yeah. I definitely feel like Dio might be a guy that we're just going to have to eat the money on. We're definitely going to probably be cutting ties with him and just have to eat that contract because, I mean, like you said, it's just something is not clicking with him.
No.
And the weirdest part about it is, if you remember watching week 1 when we were up in the cabin, Dio Adengbo was the highlight of the defensive line. And ever since that game, it's kind of just been, it's never been there ever again. So it's been a little weird. But I agree. I mean, if Dio's not going to get the job done, man, let's call up Austin Booker. Let him get more reps out there. The guy looks good. And talking about him before, the game today, he led the NFL in preseason in sacks. And to come into your first game of the season of this year, obviously he's dealing with the injury, and get a sack, his confidence is at an all-time high. He's like, I didn't just do it in preseason. Now I'm doing it in my first game back against actual starters. So shout out to him. I think Austin Booker and Montez maybe could start making some pressure on this D line. But before we hop into our final segment where we kind of give away our actual MVPs of the game, that, not our predictions, but who actually ended up getting the MVPs. Let's talk about one last thing about this defensive line. Got a question for you. Does Ryan Poles pull the trigger here and add a piece? Maybe you call up Cincinnati and say, Trey Hendrickson, hey, what's the price tag to get you over here?
That's pretty funny that you bring that up, because I was thinking the same thing to talk about tonight. I'm like, with the record we had and what happened in the NFC North today, which was crazy.
And the Bears needed it.
Well, we needed it, absolutely. And then I start thinking about, God, what if we didn't blow that Vikings game? And what if we actually pulled off the Ravens game? Now those are all woulda, shoulda, couldas, and it doesn't matter, right? But
I was about to say coulda, shoulda, woulda. The Ravens one, I wouldn't even say that because at the end of the day, I don't think we didn't blow that game. We were playing from behind the majority of the game.
yeah,
But the Vikings game, you could definitely say that because
Yeah.
the Bears 100% choked. It was week 1, but it doesn't matter. That game, we said it in the moment. You can look back at that game later on the season. That might be a game that is the reason they missed the playoffs.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I have a feeling the phone is being dialed and other teams are being called.
I was about to say, I definitely would not be surprised if we wake up tomorrow, or not even wake up, but throughout the day tomorrow, we hear about the Bears maybe possibly closing in on getting someone over here. I know.
Who
I
are we
want
giving
to.
up?
That's the thing. I don't know if we're going to be giving someone up. We might just straight up give up a draft pick for it, which I'm okay with because, in all reality, I love Ryan Poles. I think he does great in the first and second round, but past that, it's not a good.
Anyone can do great in the first and second round.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. If it's give up a third round pick for some proved edge rusher already, yeah,
do it.
Send it over. I don't
So
care.
is it going to be Chase Young?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. He looked good against the Bears. He also looked good last week against Baker Mayfield. He was all over Baker plenty of times. And, it's part of that thing of getting in a new scenery, kind of like Jake Moody. He's with the Saints. He's probably not even playing 100% because he knows at the end of the day they don't have a chance to win. You get over to a team where it's a little bit different culture. You're on the winning side of it, which is pretty new to the Bears as of late. But, you get a different scenery and you get that extra pep in your step and you get a little bit more motivated. I definitely was stretching with Trey Hendrickson. I don't even think we have the actual money for that.
No.
But Chase
is a possibility.
As far as adding a pass rusher, I definitely think after this game, it's worth it. And you need it. You definitely need it. Not saying I'm not saying that you necessarily need it because the D-line isn't getting that much pressure. I think it's a little bit of both. You need more D-line pressure in affecting these quarterbacks more, but you also need it because we see with our injured secondary, they're not being able to hang with guys as much as a normal starting cornerback should. And if you get in those elite pressures, you're going to make those cornerbacks look better because they're getting to the quarterback faster.
Well, let's think about this, right? The Bears were the only team, if I'm not mistaken, you're the stat master, so correct me if I'm wrong. They were the only team scoring 21 points a game, correct?
Correct. Until last week.
Until last week, because we had a
16,
game.
Yep.
It should have been more, but it didn't.
Yep.
The Dallas game, how many points did we score?
31, I want to say. I think we won 31-14.
And then what did we just score in this game?
47.
We can score. We have an offense that can score when they're not committing penalties, not false starting.
I was about to say, I think we're also forgetting too. Guess who leads the lead in explosive plays in the NFL? The Bears do. We can score. We can move the ball. I'm not
now
saying
we got to shut down the offense of the other teams. If you can do that, you win games. That's it. The Super Bowl. That's how you do it. You score more than the other team.
All right, let's slow down with the Super Bowl. But let's just get to the playoff first.
No. Let's say this too. I know I started the year at 15-2, and I know I'm a little off. I'm one game off right now with one.
No,
with
don't even say 14-3.
I am, because this is a game that you had on your sheet in the beginning of the year that you said we would lose, and we won. And I think even if
I was about to say if Joe Burrow plays, I think he still puts up 470 and the Bears still win.
I don't even think Joe Burrow would have put up 470.
Yeah, you're probably right.
So I think Poles is picking up the phone. Kevin Warren's giving the green light. They're digging in the mattress, right? They're looking underneath the couch cushions, looking for some extra cash. And I think that makes some moves. I
wouldn't be mad if they made a move. I don't want them to make a big move, though, where you're like pushing all your chips in, but definitely add someone valuable at the edge rusher position. Maybe get someone on a rental for just the rest of this year and see how it goes. You don't have to pay somebody big money, rent him out for this year. And, that's the thing, too. We might not. I know Ryan Poles, he did just move cap space around a couple weeks ago where he fluctuates a couple people's contract to free up cap space, essentially. So
Mm-hmm.
you can always do that to bring in somebody. And like I said, it doesn't need to be some household name, but somebody that can affect the quarterback a little bit more, because
Yep.
that's the other thing too. If you can get a tandem of Booker, Sweat, and somebody else that maybe you get from, that is a good little rotation you can get in there and just keep sending pressure at these quarterbacks, because the one thing the Bears have been good at for the most part, even last week, the past month, I would say, they've stopped the run. The run is no longer something you really need to worry about with this Bears team, of them getting some chunk plays in the rushing game. So that's already setting teams up 2nd and 7, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and longs, where they're obvious passing plays where you can get those pass rushers in there and affect quarterbacks. So definitely, I agree. I wouldn't mind seeing, somebody make a move, but I feel like at the same time too, I wouldn't be mad if Ryan Poles didn't make a move at the same time too. If you just want to let this Ben Johnson experiment play out for year one, keep your draft capital, I wouldn't be mad either. I agree. It's a little bit of both, but I wouldn't, like I said, either way, I don't think I'm going to be mad.
Yeah, I mean, if they keep winning, I'm definitely not mad, right? I mean, no one's mad if you keep winning. Winning's the answer to everything. You kind of look at the schedule coming up. We got the Giants coming up, then we got the Vikings, which, by the way, JJ had a game today. It's kind of
Okay,
interesting.
well, hold on. Timeout. Dad,
he had
won.
a game.
He won the game. He played terrible.
He had a game today. He had a
Yep.
game.
He did beat the Lions.
So I'm
I
saying
think Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason beat the Lions, but
that
you know what? He definitely had a game, because let me pull this up real quick. I was looking at this because after the game,
you pulled, but let's talk about what's coming up, right? We got the Giants coming up, we got the Vikings coming up, we got the Steelers. That's going to be an interesting one.
yeah, they had a big win over the Colts today, a massive one.
Yeah. Then you got the Eagles on Black Friday, and then right into December we got the Packers.
Yeah, I'm telling that's why I do really think that Ravens game hurt. I said it last week, but
The Ravens and the Vikings
our back half of our schedule is really brutal once we get. I feel like the Steelers are still beatable. I think it gets scary, like you said, once you start turning back to the Eagles, the Packers. Like the only other game in there that is maybe you can say not a for sure win, but yeah, that's the only other game where you could be like, that's pretty winnable. The rest of them, though, it's not. They're really tough. Most of them are probably going to be playoff teams, but at the same time, if you want to figure out if you're a playoff team, that's the perfect people to be playing. But like you said, maybe we'll end this show. You kind of touched on it. Big win today for the Vikings against the Lions, and then Carolina shocks the Packers and
in Lambeau.
Yeah. It's funny. I actually got a buddy out there. I love him to death. I love talking football with him. And, he was saying words last night that Jordan Love is in the MVP conversation. And, I mean, I brought up a point to him. Last week, Caleb threw for 283 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jordan Love did the same exact thing today, had 273 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. He said Jordan Love's performance was average and Caleb's was bad. So, it's just Packer fans. They're out of touch with reality. But in all seriousness, it's just a good rivalry. But the Panthers did have a big win over the Packers, and this really helps out the Bears. Now we're 1 game behind both the Lions and not even. We're tied with the Lions at 5-3. They just have the seeding over us because of the head-to-head matchup earlier in the year. But 1 game away, not even 1 game, half a game out from the Packers because they have that tie in there. So the Bears are in reach. We're right at the halfway point. They're definitely in reach. It's going to come down to, we can't blow games like we did week 1. That's for sure. Coming down this stretch, especially if it's against one of these good teams, you cannot be doing that down the stretch. That's just going to be a recipe for disaster. And, you're going to be looking at the end of the season, wow, we missed it by one game. And you can point back to a couple of games where you might have blew leads like we did week 1. So they definitely got to hone in. Matter of fact, what's the score? Oh, never mind. Seattle's up 31-7 as we speak. It would have maybe been nice.
4 touchdowns in the first half.
It would have definitely been nice if Washington could have won and bumped Seattle down too. But you know what? This NFC is going to be tough. We are sitting still at the 8th seed. The 49ers did win. We're one game out of the wild card spot. But, you know, we're a half game out of the division. Let's worry about the division, and we can get not only can we get in the playoffs, we will have home field advantage, which if that happens, Dad, we will be buying tickets and going to that playoff game.
I would agree with you on that one right there. I got to look something up real quick, though, since you said that. So if you want to carry on the discussion while I'm looking it up.
Yeah, I'll kind of just go through some of the other games since we're just talking about some of the stuff in the league. The Patriots, I know you were talking about Drake May in the pregame show. He definitely played decent, had some mistakes today, but they did get a big win over the NFC, the Falcons, who are kind of right behind us in that picture. They did take down the Falcons today, 24-23. Just trying to think. Obviously, like what I said, Pittsburgh had a big win against the Colts today. Colts were looking unstoppable for a while. Finally, there's a couple people out there saying they haven't really played a challenging team yet, and they played the Steelers, who I wouldn't even really call challenging. I would say they're a competitive football team. The Steelers take care of business in that game. San Fran and the Giants played the San Fran pretty close, which is who we play next week. We got the Giants next week, which their pass rush is going to be something, you know, they might not be the best team offensively, but no, they got Abdul Carter, Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. That D-line is stacked.
And no Cam Scatterbo.
Yep, no Cam Scatterbo. Nothing.
What I was looking up, I thought it was relevant to our conversation we had this morning and now. Jaden Daniels, only 89 yards passing. He has an interception. Does have 44 yards on the ground with a touchdown, but number 1 overall draft pick compared to number 2 overall draft pick.
It's about to say, it's like I said earlier. It's last year it was Jaden Daniels, which he did have a hell of a year, but like we talked about before the season started, when you look at Caleb and Jaden's stats, they're pretty darn identical when it comes to the passing side of it. It's literally identical, except literally like it was like 40-yard difference in the passing yards. Just like I said, winning and losing, it is a team game at the end of the day. You don't win and lose off of one player. And like we said, it's kind of like what we saw with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud had a great rookie year, and then he regressed. You're starting to see the same thing with Jaden Daniels. Granted, I will give you know, Jaden Daniels the benefit of the doubt. He has been hurt. He hasn't really got to stack games and consistently, you know, get in a rhythm. Every time it seems like he starts to stack up a couple games, then he gets hurt again. But we know how that goes. We had Justin Fields. When you have those mobile quarterbacks that choose to run more than times than not, you're going to deal with those injuries. But like you said, like I said before in the pregame show, let's just worry about Caleb. You know, let's worry about our Bears team. I obviously, you know, want Caleb to do better than Jaden Daniels to shut everyone up. But at the same time, let's just focus on Caleb Williams. But let's head off into our last segment. We always do this on our post-game shows, go through the actual MVPs of a game. I'll let you start off with your offensive MVP. Who would you give your offensive MVP to?
Can I give it to Doyle Declan and Ben Johnson for the offensive play calling?
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't want to go with your pregame guess and that guy who I think deserves it. He got a game ball in that locker room.
Kyle Monangai, I know he did. I watched it. I think it was good, but if I look at all the offensive players today, they all had a really good game. Caleb had a good game. DJ Moore had a good game. Colston Loveland obviously had a good game.
Yeah.
So I think it comes down to the play calling, right? Put them in good positions for them to do what they did. So I'm going to go with Doyle Declan. We have never mentioned
Declan Doyle.
Declan Doyle.
You had it reversed. Yep.
Double D's.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is why we brought Ben Johnson over here. The Bears have always had a good defense. It never had an offense that could ever help the defense. And you're starting to see this Ben Johnson this Ben Johnson offense fully start to kind of take place. We've seen it in glimpses and pieces, but this was probably the first game where we saw fireworks for the majority of the game, where it was just nonstop. Couple of trick plays in there today. Don't really know if I like using those against the Bengals, maybe use it against some other teams that, are better. But at the same time, you called them at the time, and both of them worked to perfection. The Philly special was crazy. I saw it coming from a mile away. Once I saw Rome get the ball, and once I saw him toss it to DJ, I saw Caleb leaking out. I'm like, oh, here we go. And Caleb was wide open. That one with Tyson Bagent, it was funny because the Bears guy, I told you, I made a good friend at the game, told him about our podcast. I hope you're tuning in. But he did. I was telling him, I'm like, look at Tyson Bagent. Like, I saw him running from the sidelines. I'm like, here comes a crazy trick play. And sure enough, here it is. Backwards pass to Tyson. Caleb rolls out with a couple of linemen. They throw it back to him. It was a well-designed play. And for a second, Caleb was one broken tackle away from housing that thing. And how cool would that been? A Tyson Bagent passing touchdown for Caleb's second receiving touchdown of the game. It definitely would have been a cool, and I'm sure if it did hit, Caleb and Tyson might have had some really cool celebration. You could see them both fired up after that. And that's the thing with this whole Tyson Bagent, Caleb Williams thing. At the end of the day, they're teammates, man. They want to win no matter who's playing. And it was cool to see them celebrate that play together after, it worked. But I like what you said with Declan Doyle and Ben Johnson for scheming this up. Definitely not the hardest defense to scheme up, but you still got to scheme stuff up and call the right plays at the right time. And I agree. I think he called when you only don't score on one possession. Yeah, that's a pretty good offensive day. And you're doing the right things. But since you did that, oh God, I want to give the ball to my guy, but I do think Kyle Monangai, seriously, like it was
seventh
big
round draft pick.
For a 7th round draft pick to run like that. And we saw it wasn't just hard run today. We saw some shiftiness out of him, some serious shiftiness out of him. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to split an offensive game ball into 3. I'm going to give it to 3 people. All right. I'm giving it to Caleb because I know the Bears fans and the media has been attacking him, and he deserves it. He deserves a game ball. He played great today. No turnovers, only 2 sacks. Like I said, we talked about it. The pre-snap penalties were mostly pretty much gone today, except the second to last drive of the game with the false start. 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 350 total yards with his catching, his 2 yards or his 22 yards receiving, his rushing yards of 53 yards, and then the 280 passing yards. He had a day today. The completion percentage definitely still needs to be up in the higher 60s for my liking, but at the end of the day, he made plays when they need to happen. And I'm telling you what, Dad, after you get off of this, go look up the throw from Caleb Williams on that game-winning pass to Colston Loveland. Yes, Colston Loveland did the work afterwards, but he floated that ball right over a linebacker in between 2 safeties. It was a beautiful place football. When you need your best throw of the game, he threw it at the perfect time. So I'm going to give 1 to Caleb. Kyle Monangai is definitely getting a game ball. When DeAndre Swift's out, this guy looked insane. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't know if they could have the Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery type of duo backfield. I'm not saying they're at that level, but they got a nice little 1-2 punch now. I think Monangai got to fully show on display. We've got to see bits and pieces, but it's mostly been DeAndre Swift getting the majority of the carries. I will not be surprised going forward if this is really 50-50 going forward, because Kyle Monangai really showed what he can do. He's that bruiser back, and he's small, 5'8", but that guy will run you over at any moment.
I do got to cover one thing, and I had to pull it up to make sure I didn't butcher it. But I don't know if you know this or not, and if you said it, I apologize. But Caleb Williams is the first NFL quarterback to have multiple throwing touchdowns, multiple receptions, and a receiving touchdown in the same game.
Pretty good. Pretty good for a guy that, we need to put Tyson Bagent in to play over him. But in all seriousness, you know me, I'm a Caleb Williams guy, and I'll call it out when I see it, but I just think the hate's been a little bit too strong. Especially he gets enough hate from the national media. Our job as Bears fans and Bears media should be to pick him up. This is his city, and we're here to support him and have faith in him. Yeah, you can criticize him and do what you got to do, but this past week it was insanity. It really was absolute insanity after that game when he still threw for 280 yards. Just like today, he got the touchdowns to come with it. Last week, the touchdowns weren't coming with it, but he still threw for 280 yards last week against a really good. Their whole Ravens defense was back, and look what the Ravens defense just did to a Miami offense. They held him to 6 points, had 3 caused turnovers. I mean, it was still good. He just needed the touchdowns to come with it. But my last game ball, he's been my guy. You know, the past 2 weeks I've been saying he's going to be the MVP. And, you know, Colston Loveland, 100%, man. Way to show up. This guy, this is the Colston Loveland we've been waiting to see, and it was on full display today. Catching the ball, yards after contact. And I mean, Tyler Warren has made some great plays and had some great numbers. I don't even know if I've seen a receiver break 2 tackles, spin out of it, and then as a tight end, beat 4 guys chasing you down to the end zone. He still had like 30 yards to run. He outran like all 4 of their cornerbacks and safeties that were packed up on him. I mean, it was a phenomenal play. And he, like I said, he had a big game today. He had a bunch of big catches in this game to move the chains. And I love to see him and Caleb finally getting that chemistry because, too, a lot of the throws to Colston were kind of ones right in stride where they were really accurate. And that's what you need to do. You need to give these guys the ball in space and let them go make plays. So those are my 3 game balls for the offense. Caleb Williams, Kyle Monangai, and Colston Loveland. I think they all 3 deserved it. I know Ben Johnson's game balls were Kyle Monangai and Colston Loveland. So
Yep.
I'm just giving an extra one to Caleb.
I umbrellaed it with Doyle.
Yeah. They definitely had a good plan, but let's shift over to the defensive side of it. If you had to give away a defensive ball, not that they really deserve any, to be honest.
Stick with the guy I picked in the pregame with Gardner. First game in, he had the playbook for 3 days, and he contributed to the defense.
Yeah, he had a big sack early in the game. It was on a 3rd down too. It was really massive. I liked what I saw out of him, and I'm super excited we got him over here. Didn't really see any problems with him. At the game, I didn't see him really chirping or, getting in players' faces. He was kind of just out there. And one thing I really did like to see out of him, that first kick return touchdown, he waited for the whole kickoff team to come off and high-fived all of them, shaking his head, you're good, you're good. Like, he's picking up his teammates, and it's all right. Like I said, I think we talked about in the pregame, it's okay to chirp and do that and be a little bit of a talkative player as long as you're doing your job first and then doing it after. So I just liked what I really saw, and I agree with you. He definitely deserves one. Comes in. We signed him on Tuesday, short week, 3 days of practice, comes in. Granted, he does know Dennis Allen's system, but still, you're playing with a bunch of other players you've never played around, and I thought he actually played a really good game. So definitely like to see that from him. If I got to give one, I'm giving it to the guy that made his debut for the season, and that's Austin Booker. He had that forced fumble with the sack and let the Bears recover it in their territory. I liked what I saw to Austin Booker, and I agree. There's not too many people on this defense that deserve a game ball. Tremaine Edmonds obviously had a big interception again, too, which, by the way, he didn't get touched. That should have been a pick 6. I don't know where he got touched. But it was definitely a hard day to give out balls for this defense after giving up 42 points. But if it has to go to anybody, I think those 2 guys. And then obviously I think you could put Montez Sweat in there as well. The 3 guys that had a sack, I feel like definitely deserved it. But I don't know if you want to have any final thoughts before we head on out of here. I think we hit on quite a bit of everything. It was a fun episode, another fun game. Glad to be back in the win column. It feels better. And I know Monday heading back to work tomorrow will feel even better. hopefully we get to see some of the national media. I've already seen some tweets. Everyone's praising Caleb, and it's how it goes. It's such a week-to-week league where people just need to take a step back, and the whole point of grading someone's play is their season overall. And it's so week to week with him, man.
Is he a potential FedEx Player of the Week?
It depends. I heard Matt Stafford had a pretty good day too. It will definitely be tough because I will say the one thing, both the Rams and the Bears didn't play the best defenses. Let's see. Stafford's definitely getting it. 24 for 32, way better completion percentage, 281 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was sacked twice as well. He had 140 passer rating. I think he'll probably get it over Caleb for the NFC because that's how you have to remember they do that based on NFC and AFC. Yep. You never know, though. Caleb did have a little bit more passing, or no, they were at pretty much the same passing yards. They both had 4 touchdowns. Caleb did have a receiving one. Maybe if they factor that in, Stafford had -4. When you look at their total yards, Caleb did play better, but Stafford had a way better. That's like a 80-something% completion percentage. 24 out of 32. I think that's 80% on the dot.
We'll see.
Stafford played pretty good, to be honest. So it'll definitely depend. Maybe they'll weigh in the circumstance of how close the game was, but I think those are also Twitter voted. So it's not NFL-based voting. Now, the FedEx, the FedEx one is the one you were talking about, correct?
Yep.
That one is Twitter voting, but there is an NFL one where they do the NFC, and that's based on the league. They vote on that. So maybe Caleb wins one of them. I think he deserves it. Now, if you want to talk about somebody that could win the ground player of the week, Kyle Monangai could win it. I'll have to take a look and see what other running backs did in the league today, but it probably would have helped if he got a touchdown or 2 in there. But at the same time, 7 yards he was averaging a carry. That's insanity for 176 yards. He also had 20-something yards. He finished all-purpose 198 yards on the day. So he definitely has a chance at winning it as well. Definitely will be something to keep an eye on. But like you said, fun episode, another Bears W. I think we covered everything that we needed to cover. It was definitely a fun episode. But links are always down below in the description for all our social media. I got some great stuff I recorded at the game that will be getting posted throughout the week. Definitely make sure to tune into that. But that will do it for this episode. Make sure to catch us next week in our pregame show against the New York Giants. Maybe if Ryan Poles does pull the trigger, maybe we will get a little breaking news podcast in here if he decides to splash on maybe a defensive player to add to our unit. But other than that, that'll do it for this episode. We'll catch you next week. But for now, bear down.